What's going on, everybody? It is the BZcast Syruptap show yet again.
Yeah, Syruptap and Berserker Gong.
Nah.
Berserky Gong.
We're gonna keep it at BG. It's a little bit easier for everybody to understand. So, a couple things, I guess. What I would like to say up front is I really want to thank you guys for all of the constructive criticism in the comments of the videos. We are not offended at all. In fact, we know we are not perfect, and there's things we can improve upon. So, what we will try to do for you, sexy truck driver being number one, is we will no longer use any what you would I guess classify as inside lingo. I'll try to emphasize more, and I'll try to explain a little bit more what we're talking about. And interrupting each other. I have not felt that personally. Have you felt that personally?
Well, it's just it's hard to notice because in everyday conversations, people tend to do a poor job of waiting their turn to speak.
Oh yeah.
And waiting patiently, and then reflecting. Okay, Stephen. And in regards to your comment about demonology, it's not NPR. This is an improv conversation. This is not planned out. It
is. But don't get me wrong. We heard that, and we are going to take that into account 100%. So really, we're going to start off with a small Ben Davidson recap.
Yeah.
Again, Ben, I'm probably saying this video when we're done. Thank you again for coming on. It was great to sit down and talk with you. It was really, truly a pleasure and a privilege. And thank you for being patient with us at the beginning. I mean, to me, it speaks volumes. Now, I know there's a few people out there who are still skeptical about Ben. And the one thing I just want to point out is this. I went and met him at his meet and greet in Colorado Springs back in October. If this guy was an asshole and this guy didn't care, he wouldn't go out and meet his followers in first person. On top of that, he took time out of his busy schedule to sit down with us, a podcast he was just starting to get on his feet. We're nowhere near established as some of these others out here, but he still took time out of his day, came, sat down with us, dealt with our little bit of issues we had on the camera end of things.
And he was going to be on Joe Rogan, and Rogan got bumped so he could come be on Syruptap and BGcast.
Yes, that is the truth. 100%. But my hope is that maybe we can, if you guys are fans of Ben too out there, let's help him get on Rogan.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to get on Rogan about a year ago. I remember he did a video about it, and a lot of people were, I guess, during the live stream of Rogan's podcast or whatever, typing in "Get Ben Davidson on," and he saw it as spam. And he's had Randall Carlson on, which Ben has sat down and talked with Randall Carlson before. I don't think Ben has sat down and talked with Graham Hancock. That is the one I don't think the person he hasn't sat down with. But if Joe is really about hearing multiple narratives like he claims he is, I think he should have Ben on his podcast. But I digress. He sat with us, he did our podcast with us, and then he decided to even stick around for some time afterwards and chat with us.
Yeah, I almost enjoyed that as much as the content we got out during the podcast.
Exactly. That was truly an enjoyable experience, man, to sit down with somebody who is well established as he is and to just talk, and he's a great guy. And there's nothing else I can say about Ben except that he's a great guy. He's a master of his craft at what he does. And he truly does care for his observers and his followers.
Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. That's another thing that's kind of important. We pretty much know who the flat earthers are out there, and people are constantly changing their opinions about things like that. And the New Age movement thinks that as the earth gets completely blown to hell and all the tidal waves and Enema from the Tool album.
Learn to swim.
Some people are praying for the tidal waves, praying for the end, because all the people seem to be doing is fretting for their latte and fretting for their pilot and fretting for their jobs and fretting for things that don't matter. like, you know, these insecure actresses, you know, like that Tool song. Some people are really looking forward to the global apocalypse event, the big calamity, because they think maybe they're going to be like up in a spaceship watching it.
Oh yeah.
With a cocktail in hand, saying, "Woo!"
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That one.
I think, and that's one thing too that, one of the things I agree with Ben on, and I wish I had more time to sit and talk with him about it, is I do, my version of Ascension. I've brought this up multiple times, and I think Ben would totally resonate with my version. Is it's not we're just all gonna just be in this lofty heavenly realm, this different realm and dimension or whatever a lot of people believe ascension is. I believe true ascension, spiritual ascension, is bringing in the consciousness of your higher self and universe/God into this being you are, to manifest and create your reality in a completely different and new way. That is what I truly believe ascension is. Alchemist, Sarah, you see me do commentary on her videos, that's her definition, and honestly, in my opinion, it hits the nail on the head. And I think, a lot of people are waiting for that tidal wave. Even it was funny because when we were talking with Ben, he was like, best case scenario, that X1000 flare hits us next week. And I'm like, well,
all right. But that's isn't that kind of the thing that we do? Is we want to go scorched earth. Like we see what the big vaccine companies, the big drug companies are doing to really grind us into the dirt as a species, and we just think like, wouldn't it be great if there really was a Joker that just was planting bombs in certain strategic places to blow up the corrupt people?
That would be.
Wouldn't that be a nice way of just ending it all? But that's just the thing, though, because they are us. The people that work at the drug companies aren't all little Stalins and Hitlers. They're regular people, and they know not what they do. Forgive them, Father. So this whole extraction process. All these people that we think of as demonically possessed or zombies or the hypnotized, they could be NPCs. That's a possibility. Mm-hmm. But if they're not, then they are us, and they deserve a chance to be confronted with the error of their ways. And going scorched earth just ends the whole video game. It's like Mario jumps off the cliff, and that's the end of Mario's life.
There'd be no rug to pull at that point because we're burning the fucking rug. So it's like, and I totally agree with Joe's statement on that. I think that, like we've talked about, there's a balance of things. There's really truly no absolutes. We cannot blanket judgment and generalize everything and categorize everything as either good or bad.
Right, like the COVID specials for South Park. Okay, we got to see the Blade Runner future. It was like the Ghost of Christmas Future episode of South Park where Kyle and Stan only really have a relationship with their Alexa, and their Alexa's like this passive-aggressive bitch.
And you better listen to her. She's going to turn into an electric octopus.
Such an unrealistic type girlfriend.
And she's going to strangle you if you don't. I guess imbibe the fact that you're out of this product. Would you like me to place it on your shopping list?
Right. But the people of South Park at that point they treat their dogs better than they see a bunch of homeless people, but they don't care about them. They're just, background people. But their dogs are getting eye care, and their dogs are getting the best of health care. It's not upside down. It's exactly the direction that we're going as a society.
It is, and that's one thing too that I definitely want to touch base on a little bit today. So one thing I'm going to bring up is, I don't know if you guys, so when Jonah...
Sorry.
No.
I just thought about something else that's funny about that episode, and it's that Cartman becomes an Orthodox Jewish man.
That is pretty hilarious. That, I gotta admit.
And he's gaslighting Kyle because Kyle's wondering if this is just an elaborate hoax to troll him. A 40-year-long hoax.
A 40-year-long hoax.
A 40-year-long troll for Cartman. And Cartman, he has 3 kids that act just like him, and the kids can't figure out why they hate Uncle Kyle so much.
I know. Why? Thank you, Uncle Kyle.
And Cartman can't find a hotel room, so he has to stay with Kyle. And he's banging his Jewish wife and saying, you know, "Is Abraham what you got?
Oh my God, dude.
And they're having loud sex in the room next to Kyle. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But then when they go back and they fix the past by forgiving each other during the COVID times, and they go back to the future, the only person that's left out in the cold is Eric Cartman, right? He's the one that doesn't want to come into the party.
The one who put the cart before the horse.
He can't. The torturing of his friends just doesn't work in this new non-Blade Runner environment.
It does not work. And then, you know, in what we both said before that, once the devil order works, those people leave the party and look at what happened.
Yeah, so even Cartman had a chance for ascension. If you're looking at that show as a kind of an example, Cartman could have had every other chance at ascension, but his whole life and his whole character was built around annoying and antagonizing his friends.
Exactly.
So he disqualified himself. And perhaps that is really the big takeaway.
And well, even in, you know, the podcast with Ben, where he said either this is a nursery for species or a testing ground for species.
Yeah.
That's something we both kind of resonated with, and we've touched on before when it comes to, you know, like we brought up the Star Trek Next Generation episode with the simulation testing, vice versa.
It's true. We are overdue for the apocalypse. I mean, it's since they broke the news of the big coup and they weaponized the flu against us and started using propaganda to fuck with our heads. That's when everybody just went out and started buying guns and ammo and food to prep with and gold and silver and getting rid of their fiat currency. And that was like 3 years ago. So where's that apocalypse, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Prepping is getting boring at this point.
It can, and most certainly, and I feel as of right now that, and we brought this up before, that we were kind of on a good series of events.
Yeah.
And
a good but boring series.
A good but boring. I mean, you know, it's well, you know, we talked about the siege, not an ambush, but you know, I know, and trust me, you know, I'm the guy too who, you know, scorched earth. If I could rip the veil open myself, I would. And I've said that before on multiple occasions, and it's...
Well, the blue pill is so insidious because, you know, like, you're like, oh, better jam those red pills in. They're popping red pills for 3 years, and then you just keep popping the red pill. And then the blue pill's like, Congress is back in session, and the Republicans are now in control of the House, and a rhino, Kevin McCarthy, just got Trump's endorsement. And after 15 rounds of voting, they finally got George Soros' candidate in. It's like... Where's that blue pill?
Yeah, dude.
Where's that blue pill?
I mean, the number, you know, and that's the issues. I think that a lot of people still get drawn back in with the false hope that maybe this time it's going to be different. And I've referred to it as insanity.
Dude, it's the cognitive dissonance. It's like, oh, that's a clown show. Don't pay any attention. And you're like, Oh, it's Kevin McCarthy. It's like, wait, didn't you just, you're the one who told me it was a clown show.
Exactly.
Is it a clown show or not? Yes, it's still a clown show. Could be a Republican clown show. Could be a Democrat clown show.
It's
a clown show.
It's in all essence a clown show. And that's kind of why I've talked about this. I don't play attachment to the world stage. There's certain key things I look at. I guess we can segue into that. One of those things I want to talk about right now. So 2 people have been under fire. I brought it up in some of my solo shows. We got Jordan Peterson right now, who is
Jordan Peterson. He sounds a little bit like Kermit the Frog, but it's about the forest represents your subconscious. It represents going into
Dude, you actually, bro, you almost sound exactly like him. It's actually kind of funny stuff. But he's under fire right now. He's looking at getting his his license to practice psychology suspended by the college he went to because he spoke out against Trudeau. that is the main reason I think they're coming after him right now, is because he's openly spoken out. He's openly spoken out towards a lot of the liberals in the Canadian government. I'm not, I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't really follow Canadian politics. I'm not 100% sure on how it works, but I know he's been speaking out against the people trying to perpetuate the narrative. And I think this is a red flag we just need to pay attention to, because this is something, guys, you cannot be afraid. We've talked about, here's your fear, buddy. You want me to nurse this fear for you?
Oh, yeah. I have this fear. Could you validate it for me? Could you stamp it with your seal of approval?
Exactly.
Is my fear valid?
Do not be afraid, man. Do not be afraid to keep standing up and speaking out. What they're trying to do is they're trying to use him as an example for people who do that. But here's the thing, is if we all continue to do that, and we all continue fighting this good fight or keeping the good way going, that we have nothing to be afraid of. And another person who's been under fire is Graham Hancock. I do respect Graham. I do respect his work. I think he's done a lot of good things, and he's brought to the table a lot of questions that we need to really take a look at when it comes to who we are in our past. And
he drew their fire by going on the biggest streaming service in the world, Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to expect a little bit of that. Like, he's an idol smasher. The traditional narrative of history. He makes it look like total bunk.
Oh, it's 100%. 100%. I mean, even what Ben was bringing up too on the podcast, and actually this is something that you guys should pay attention to, is that when you're in a certain field, like, meteorologists don't look at the sun. Okay, geologists don't look at certain things too. When you are in that scientific field, in that space of practice, you have a very narrow vision. You don't really have a chance to look at the correlations that are going on between multiple different things. And that's what I think is even going on in the field of archaeology when it comes down to it. I mean, the Smithsonian is notorious for keeping an agenda at hand. I've talked about it in some of my own solo shows, where back in the late 1890s, the early 1900s, there was a lot of rediscovery of things as far as our path goes. Archaeologists were digging up 7 to 12 foot tall skeletons, putting them on display. I can even go through, and what I can do is find some of those newspaper clippings and post them on this video for you guys. 7 to 12 foot skeletons, finding human skeletons 800 feet buried under the ground in a time where we would not have the technology, not only one, to stage such an elaborate hoax, but two, that would insinuate that human skeleton, I remember what Mr. David Wilcock was saying, he was the one who kind of brought it up, was 80 million years old, and that would insinuate that. Now, the Smithsonian is notorious, for having an agenda, is what I'm trying to say. So it's really interesting, even just how we can even tie in what we talked with Ben about, how when you're in a scientific field, you have that narrow vision, you cannot make correlation. And then you look at archaeologists who are kind of stuck in this one narrative that humanity did not really come around until 4000 BC. The pyramids were tombs, even though they have found no sarcophaguses in them at all. And, so there's two things, at least when it comes to the world stage, I think we should pay attention to those two individuals, because this is kind of a indicator of where we could go from here as far as a collective. What do you want to say about that, Joe?
What I'd like to say about the cover-up idea is that lately I've been trying as a mental exercise to play with the idea that the people that cover up and obfuscate the truth, what if they actually have a benevolent intention behind that? It's like, because all I hear about is how the Freemasons suck and how they're satanic because they hide the truth from people, and that the Illuminati is all about enslaving people by hiding the truth from people, and how frustrated people get when they can't even tell if we live on a flat disk cut out of a larger planet, or a frisbee floating through space, or a ball floating through space,
an Alderson disc floating through space,
or a toroid, or whatever their mental picture. They can never satisfy that knowing for sure, because they're stuck on it, and they can't get far enough away from it to look down on it. But there's people out there that we suspect do know for sure. And that's the real frustrating part for us. Is but like, can I even imagine that someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson having a benevolent reason for muddying the waters over and over again?
It's and we've talked about this before, and I think where I can find an understanding in that is the controlled opposition factor. When you have controlled opposition, they seem like they really go to great lengths to people notice these great lengths.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for instance, even with Neil, when back in that was great. Back in 2016, when the Pentagon first freaking admitted that these UFOs are not from here, Neil gets on the news and decides to go, just because they're they're UFOs doesn't mean they're from space. It means unidentified. And what I think at that point in moment when he did that, especially he did that on Rogan's podcast too. At that moment point, anybody with a lick of common sense, critical thinking will be like, well, we haven't seen anything like this built on this planet. So either they are from fucking outer space, or you know something that you're not disclosing.
Right. That is the frustration. You stated it well.
And that
but then playing with this idea, and this is higher level thinking. Next level thinking is, if they did have a benevolent purpose, because like Jesse Reed, I don't think there's some hand-wringing villain out there at this point. There's just shape-shifting lizard people. But if their shape-shifting actually served a higher good, what would that look like? Wow, just stop and sit with that idea for just 1 second, because the knee-jerk reaction is just a stamp. You got a big stamp that says evil, and it's got red ink all over it, and you're like, where am I stamped today? Evil, evil, evil. Joe Rogan, evil. Neil deGrasse Tyson, evil. Freemasons, evil. Christianity, evil. Pope, evil. But if you just set that evil stamp aside for a little while and say, okay, now can I, as a thought experiment, go through and think about if all of these people like Kanye West and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton actually were just actors playing out this scripted play, then what would that scripted play, this morality play, be trying to teach me? Like, if there's heroes and villains in the story, people I hate, people I like. I don't like Tony Fauci. I think he's the best villain that the devil ever concocted. You know, the screenwriter for these last 4 years, they came up with this Jesuit called Tony Fauci. And they're like, oh, people are gonna hate this Nazi.
He even trademarked science, bro. I didn't know you could do that. But
I bought the T-shirt that says "Public Enemy #1" and had Tony Fauci says. J.P. Sears has a great T-shirt that he made on his merch store, which I bought. And then I was like wearing it one day, and I was thinking people were giving me scowly looks where I work, where there's a lot of liberals.
Oh yeah.
They're giving me scowls like that. I'm like, oh, you don't like Tony Fauci? We're like, damn right, I don't like Tony Fauci.
I don't think, yeah.
But then it's kind of like I felt like I was wearing a shirt with Darth Vader's face crossed out. In a way, it's like, well, he's the cartoon villain from this Batman episode. Tony Fauci, the evil troll that tortures puppies. And it's all too perfect. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to say that it is a show, and maybe I'm not going to wear my fuck Tony Fauci shirt anymore.
So when
that protects my soul, that protects my louche. When I start looking at these characters, as despicable as they look, like the Gavin Newsoms and Cuomos of the world, as despicable as they look and as murderous as they seem, I'm going to pretend like they're villains in a Batman episode.
Well, so you actually brought up a very interesting point. So let me actually just now, because Loosh, we're going to break down what that is. So this is actually in a lot of different traditions. It's in a lot of ceremonial and magic traditions. It's spoken about in Buddhism. It's spoken about in Taoism, Jainism, things like that. So what Loosh is when we do not have a trained mind. Okay, and we do not have mental discipline, which I think we all need in this world nowadays. We leak in energy. All right, and this energy has different names throughout, depending on what tradition you're following, which philosophy you're looking at. But a common word for it is called loosh. Now,
I heard it from Sam Tripoli. Where did you first hear it?
well, actually, so I was reading a book by Damien Eccles. Is actually where I first. Yep. So Damien Eccles.
He was opening the can of worms.
He was
mentioning that name.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was on. You know, if you guys know him, he was on Midnight Gospel. He's been on Duncan Trussell's podcast a couple times too. He's a ceremonial magician who was actually accused of some really nasty things. We're not going to really get into that right now, but the one I did read his book because I remember when I heard him on the Midnight Gospel podcast, it was very intriguing, the conversation he was having with Duncan. So I went out and I bought his book. I bought out High Magic, and then I bought out the Angels and Archangels book as well. Just
I heard that one too. It was pretty.
And that was pretty good. And they talk about how he talked about the book how we leak this energy, and there's actually an entity that eats this energy.
What, should we give Christians a chance to go change their underwear because you mentioned Damien Eccles?
Yes.
Okay.
Starting intermission now. Ding,
Intermission.
ding,
Right.
ding, ding, ding.
The Christians are changing their underwear because we mentioned Damien Eccles.
Yes.
That's your act right about now.
All right, cool. So now they're back. So basically, there's an entity, or you could even say maybe a class of entities that feeds off this energy. And in Damien's book, he called it Karanzan. And Karanzan's actually in the hierarchy of demons, if you look at it in the Christian religion. But I do feel that there, when we've spoken about it before, these quote unquote entities, these shapeshifters or whatever they are that live among us, this is what they feed off of. So they feed off this energy. So really, if you are playing that hierarchical mindset, you're doing that dualistic mindset. You have to look for that enemy. You have to look for that fear that you want so deeply. Right. You are contributing to them. You're giving them what they want, essentially.
True. Okay, so now I'm thinking of the movie John Carter where there's an actual shapeshifter. And I think Disney kind of panned that movie. If you have Disney Plus, check out John Carter. It's a movie about this guy that goes to Mars and he meets these other civilizations up there. But there's this shapeshifter that's trying to control the whole planet. And the shapeshifter starts messing with him, playing the role of the adversary, the villain. But we need those villains. So it's also just making it not so easy on us. We need adversity in order to make our epic poem interesting.
Agreed. And that's why even I'll even entertain this for the Christians right now. Even though this was actually not truly part of the Bible. It was part of a fictional story that happened that was, I guess, brought to light, I think, in the early 1900s where Satan rebelled. But here's the thing. God already knew Satan was going to rebel, and he allowed it. And he knew that humanity would not progress and would not go further unless they were tested.
Yeah.
So really, that's something we've always tried to hit the nail on the head with this in this podcast, is that there's really no absolutes, you guys. There's not.
Yeah, I always thought it was so interesting how I was a little kid sitting in church and they'd say, God created the devil, but the devil rebelled, and now they're locked in some kind of battle over your souls. I was like, that doesn't really add up. So I'm supposed to pray to Jesus to deliver me from the temptations of Satan. Meanwhile, God seems to approve of everything that's going on.
Well, that's exactly. I totally agree because we've spoken on this before. I came from both sides of the schism.
Yeah.
I came from a Roman Catholic on my mother's side, and I come from Greek Orthodox on my father's side. And yes, the same thing is why God already knew about all this going on, and why He's approving of this going on. So in all honesty, I think what that shouts to us is that there's purposes and there's balance.
It's like if you were a second grade teacher and the kids you go out in the hall to discuss something with one of their parents, and the kids are left alone in the room. And you're kind of looking through the glass in the door to see what they're doing, and they're like, at first there's some kids, just kind of like one kid gets up out of his desk and he's going to talk to another kid. You're like, do I need to intervene yet? No. Then you start to see like this other kid, the bully in the class, pick up the nerdy kid in class and start to like grab him by his shirt. And you're like, do I need to go in there? God's like a second grade teacher that never comes in, no matter how fucking bad the second grade class gets. So that's what I call implied consent. You know?
Exactly. Implied consent. Implied consent. Well, you know, even they have to at least tell us what they're doing before they do it. I mean, that's part of the rules that they have to abide by. So I mean, I sent a couple of people this video where David Wilcock was talking. Now mind you, before I preface this, I don't agree with everything David says, but this is one thing that I do agree with, and I do believe, because you can see it firsthand, is that they have to tell you what they're doing. That's part of the rules.
And maybe that's part of the fun for them too.
And maybe that's part of the fun as well.
You guys are so cheap, so stupid. We could tell you what we're doing, and you still won't believe us.
Exactly. So, and they do it using symbolism. They do it using what I would call a higher language. I mean, you look at all of the movies that we guys would call predictive programming, okay, where they show us these events before they happen. And this is their way of telling us what's going to happen, but doing so in a way that the conscious mind does not recognize, but the unconscious mind does.
Yeah, I'd say the common theme among all deals with the devil to sell your soul is very simple. It's just grab for power. Grab for power. The deal with the devil involves, to some extent, becoming like the devil, and that you are now going to turn around and tempt others to make the same deal. It's like an MLM. It's like a multi-level marketing scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. You know? It's like all the devil has to do is get one Harvey Weinstein, and then Harvey Weinstein is going to influence all of Hollywood to fall in line with his pyramid scheme.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like the thing that you can't, you know, for every time you want more power, you got to give them more blackmail. If you ever watched that NXIVM cult documentary on HBO, you'll see exactly how the Keith Raniere did just follow the plan perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's like, how do I start a cult? Well, you're going to have to get some blackmail on people. You're going to have to get some hot, young, attractive females to basically be your sales force. Talking platitudes, but mostly it has to do with the blackmail. You get people to give you more and more dirt on themselves so that they can't leave because they're in it too far.
They're in it way too far.
They're pot committed. That's another term for it.
Pot committed. No.
So, you know, if you ever hear somebody trying to get you to a point where you're pot committed, whether it's a pastor at your local evangelical church, or a boss, or a teacher, or a professor, or a parent, it could be a relative. That's when you can recognize the deal with the devil, and it's Jesus has probably said this to many people. He'd say, "Get behind me, Satan." He'd say that to one of his disciples. He'd say that to one of his relatives. You know, get behind me, Satan.
Exactly.
Because he realizes that Satan's kind of like a Smith in the Matrix. Anybody can play that role of the accuser. Anybody can play that role of the adversary. And it's not saying like that person will forever be Satan or possessed. It's saying that in this moment, the person that is accusing me is taking on the role of Hasatan, of Satan, of the accuser.
Exactly.
And I recognize what's going on, and I'm saying, get behind me.
And you know, that's actually a really good point, is that, so I guess let's digest the occult meaning and the symbolism behind Satan. Okay? Satan is the tester. So the occult symbolism of Satan would be like this. So like, let's say you're walking down the street, right? And this person walks by you. And this person is just cruel to you for absolutely no reason. Gives you the fucking finger, calls you a fucking indigent piece of chicken shit, whatever he could think of that day. So Satan is going to come in and go, all right, Steve, you got two choices. You can go about your merry way and forget this ever happened and not let it affect you. Or what you could do is you could turn around and go kick his ass. That's what you can do. So that's kind of like the occult concept, the occult concept of Satan. And especially when you said, "Get behind me, Satan," he realized that Satan is just playing this part. It is this part from some people call it the habitus, we've called it that way before.
The normalcy bias.
The normalcy bias, things like that. And it's really something to pay attention to.
It could just be three sheets to the wind, you know. In vino veritas, right? Like someone's had a little bit too much to drink, and all of a sudden they're a different person. They got the Jekyll and Hyde thing going on. There's a lot of things that can trigger someone's inner demon that's going to play that adversarial role, and it can feel very real depending on how close you are to that person, and it can really hurt, you know. But it's your choice whether or not, to the extent to which you let that victimize you.
Exactly.
You know, and part of being growing up and coming into the age of reason is getting, for the first time in your life, the freedom to say, hey, even though this person presents themselves as an authority figure to me, I don't have to listen to them. And you don't have to listen to your mom. You don't have to listen to your dad. You don't have to listen to your grandpa. You don't have to listen to Donald Trump. You don't have to listen to 107. None of these people are the boss of you.
And that's what and that even ties into discernment. And that ties into discernment, I think, full throttle, because at that point, you have to even use discernment with your own philosophies and your own beliefs. And you have to be willing to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate things. And you don't have to listen. Now, you could take what you like, for instance, even like prime example, we just did it right here, right now with David Wilcock, all right? Yeah. There's things I really like that he says. And then there's things that he says that I don't agree with. But that's the thing. David is not the utmost authority that I bow down to, and whatever he says is fucking truth.
I've heard people flat out call him a shill.
There's some. Well, the thing I don't agree with David on is he believes that all of the so-called extraterrestrial, interdimensional races are beneficial. I do not think that. I think there is a balance, just like we have balance of humans here on this planet. I think there's some out there that are for us, and they want to see us succeed, and they want to see us ascend and do this. And I think there's some that could not care less and just either want to use us as a food source, quote unquote, or for whatever else. And like, that's the one thing I do not agree. For instance, that just case in point. I use even discernment when I'm listening to some of the people that I'm truly fond of. And that's really what it is we have to take it upon ourselves to be sovereign individuals. And what I mean by sovereign is I mean spiritually sovereign, meaning that you find your own answers. You are the utmost authority on all of your truth, not someone else, not Anthony Fauci, not Elon Musk,
Well, it's so funny because I think about what's coming to mind right now is Hannibal Lecter and how a lot of people kind of lionize him, and they think he's not the villain of the story but the hero. In a lot of ways, he does some heroic stuff. But the interesting thing that puts a spin on the character of Hannibal Lecter is that before he eats somebody, he essentially kind of gets their permission. So it's almost like he's not committing a crime because there's no victim.
Exactly.
He hypnotizes them in a way and gets them to essentially assent to their own death. Right? He gives them choices. They're false choices. Would you like to be disemboweled or would you like to be hung from this noose? And they're like, oh, and they choose their own death because he gives them a bunch of false dichotomy.
No, exactly. And I mean, you just speaking about false dichotomy right now, you look at everything going on. Look at everything going on in the world today. It's funny. So I was talking with one of our followers yesterday. I do want to bring this up real fast. Okay. So one of our followers, I sent him the trailer. So I don't know if you guys remember the movie Gray State. Now I know some of you who have been on this path for a while, even before the coup, even before Trump, even before all of that. There was a movie that was going to be released in 2017 that was called Gray State. what Gray State was it was a movie about the Second American Revolution, and it was more of a, even the producer himself said it was more of a documentary of what our future could be. And he basically depicted the Second American Revolution. He depicted the militarization of FEMA. He depicted the barren shelves, the food shortages, all that. He also predicted the camps, and at the camps, and this to this day is the reason why I believe what happened to him happened, is at the camps he depicted Freemasons beheading the dissidents who did not agree with the re-education and vice versa. Unfortunately, this man, before his movie could be released, was found shot dead in his house, execution style, with his wife and his 2 children. And people say it's a mystery about what happened behind those walls. I don't think it's a mystery. This man was about to lift the guise of plausible deniability. He was putting out there a very true future that we could very well experience. And what I found really funny about it was under the comments, and he goes, under the comments, one person commented, if you want to see the full movie, just look out your window right now. And exactly, the false dichotomies, everything else that's going on in our society and the world stage.
Look, like Jay Dyer's been doing a pretty good job of pointing out, if you listen to him, he is heady, man, like talking about higher level thinking. But he talks about the Fabian Society and how George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World, were kind of part of this Fabian Society. And that the reason why they painted such a bleak picture of the future was not because they wanted humanity to take warning and go away from their communist, socialist, double-think way of being. Was because, but the way that they painted it is like, watch, we can show you the trap and you'll walk straight into it anyway, because of their cynicism about humanity and the direction it was taking. Like, you guys are such sheep. You're never, we could write endless books about this dark future, and you won't be able to avoid it because you put too much faith in authority figures and leadership.
Exactly. Exactly. And that even ties into that, we have to be the ones to save ourselves. And, saving ourselves, again, does not have to be the French Revolution.
Yeah, you find yourself in that second grade class from the metaphor before last, and the teacher's out in the hallway and the teacher's distracted, and you're trying to get the teacher's attention before the bully in the class puts his fist through your face. But then you realize after getting hit a few times, the teacher's not coming back in. Mm-mm. The teacher's oblivious. They might as well not be a teacher. We, the people in this classroom, have to take it upon ourselves with our limited knowledge as second graders to save ourselves or to unite as a front against the one bully. And not to murder the bully in retaliation, but to at least subdue the bully. And like in Lord of the Flies, these kids are just left there onto their own devices to try to establish some kind of social order, and they do a poor job of it.
Exactly.
Right, but we don't have to do that again. We can realize like that the failure of the federal government in the last since the Kennedy assassination, and before then, of course, but it's our mess to clean up, and you can't clean it up in the mindset of what created that problem in the first place, which was giving away our authority to other people.
Exactly. And that's the issue too, is I think a lot of people in this world today have become complacent with the fact that there's a lot of people doing thinking for them. And really, guys, the way to do it is opting out. And this is one thing a lot of people have never really thought about, is only participate as much as you have to. And so basically...
Are you talking about on an emotional level? Because how do you opt out? You got your family living in there, you want to be close to them.
I mean, participate as much as you want. So what I mean by opt-out is this. So what I mean by opt-out is do what you have to do in the most minimal way to, you go to work every day to provide for yourself. We've talked about how survival is key before you move on to ascension or enlightenment. You have to have that aspect.
Can I mention one thing
Yeah,
that I work on? So how I work on this, doing what you're calling opting out, I do it on an emotional level. And the way I practice it is, if I ever look at my bank account or deal with money, have cash in hand, even take out my wallet, I do a heart check and say, is there anything going on emotionally as I look at this number on the screen? And I do it just like as if someone looks at their hands because they're trying to do lucid dreaming. I do this as a spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. Is there anything going on in my chest, in my solar plexus, as I look at this number on the screen, as I pay this bill, as I hand over this wad of cash? And I gotta say, I think I'm making some progress. I'm getting to the point where it's like, no, I can honestly say there's nothing going on there.
There's nothing there?
Okay, there's no fear, there's no love, there's no lust, there's no emotions going on in my chest as I hand over this wad of fiat currency.
And that's a very good point. So yes, is emotionally opting out as well as not participating. So I mean, really what I mean by that is, so Joe did a good example. I mean, even with just paying your bills, but even with the stuff that you see on the media and the world stage, is understanding that it is a stage, understanding that this is all just a show and it's an event. Mm-hmm. Okay, opting out too, from I guess a physical aspect, is not participating in a corrupt system. Okay, here's the thing, guys, is if we all did that and we all just decided one day that we just did not want to participate in the false two-party system that we got going on, we decided we don't want to participate in the false god that is currency anymore. Okay, there's absolutely nothing they could do. And I think really a lot of people think that in order for change to occur, in order for us to actually save ourselves, there has to be some kind of firefight. And in all aspects,
yeah, exactly. So like if you just practice and you find you cannot kick that little feeling in your heart as you look at your bank account statement, then try burning a 50, and if that doesn't work, try burning 100, and just watching it very carefully as it burns, and see if that doesn't break the spell. It'd be cheaper than going to see a shrink.
And you want to know what? It's there's actually there's very powerful energy in that practice. I did light a 20 on fire one time, and I can be the first to say that there is something to that. But as Joe said, it's not participating in this system. It's only doing what you need to do to survive. I mean, you have your family, you have yourself. You need to survive and provide for yourself. You don't need to go and get a football team. You don't need to go and get a political party. You don't need to get emotionally invested in things that, in the long grand scheme of things, don't matter. That is another way of looking at opting out. And actually, I really like how you put it, Joe, especially with the emotions, because I think a lot of people, they get tied up in the emotional thing. That's how they get you, and that's how they control you, is they use and they play on your heartstrings.
That's the whole advertising industry. It's like, can we get into their emotions? That's how you sell them bullshit.
Oh yeah, well even I think I was listening to a whose podcast was it? Jeez, I'm just gonna start writing things down. But they were talking about how they use nostalgia. Mm-hmm. In sales tactics to sell more items and things like that. Yeah, you can even say nostalgia is a type of emotion, because when you feel nostalgia, you feel happiness from a time period of your life that is no longer there. So, right. Exactly, case in point.
Yeah, that's a lot of idolatry and nostalgia get mixed up together.
Exactly.
Rosebud from Citizen Kane. Charlie Kane just can't. He's got all the wealth in the world and controls the lives of so many people, but he can't regain his innocence, as symbolized by that sled that he had when he was a kid, just having fun out there on the snow. Rosebud.
Exactly.
Rosebud.
It is, man. It's it's really, that's a good point. That's something we always try to hammer down when we have these discussions. So I guess where we can move on from here, the next thing that I'd like to discuss is, I brought this up on my Facebook page. We want to make a documentary.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We want to actually, so I did phrase it as the war on consciousness. Of course, that is subject will change because I don't
Yeah.
think we're at much of a war anymore.
We've seen a huge tide turn in that war.
Yeah.
That consciousness is now my hunch is that they probably all the hallucinogens and psychedelics are basically, for all intents and purposes, completely legal. And in other words, they're decriminalized. And in other words, you're not going to get any pushback from law enforcement regarding those things because they're too busy with ones that are actually killing people, the ones that come from China.
Exactly, China, and it's exactly to that point. The only part that I think we still have a little bit of I guess fight's a really loose word. We have a thing we need to address is the information aspect of consciousness about people dictating what is truly factual information. I mean, for instance, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, the hashtag died suddenly has been going around and it's getting basically censored on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. And you have people trying to, for instance, I posted a meme, good example, I posted a meme about the COOF vaccine, and they said that there was partly false information in it, but really, if you looked at the information and you researched it outside of the meme itself, and you saw...
all that means is that good old Facebook is still running cover for their paymasters at the drug companies.
Oh yeah, there's still...
Everybody else has given up, but... Even the Bird app, good old Elon Musk. But Facebook is still cucking out to the drug companies.
It really is. It really is. And so, there's you have people in power, working with social media, trying to dictate what factual information is. And here's the thing, guys, is that's a very slippery slope. We can look at any point in history. I mean, even back in the days of the medieval times where peasants were not allowed to read. Because if peasants were allowed to read, they would eventually figure out what was going on and there would be some kind of uprising.
It's to this point like that it's an annoying, obnoxious like gnat, the censorship. It used to be deadly serious where it was like, dude, it's every single internet app, every single well-known app is censoring the same stuff. And then you had your Rumble pop up and your Truth and Parler. I don't know if anybody remembers Parler, but it was like, then they started to have to play whack-a-mole because there were all these conservative apps that came up and they're like, well, we still have free speech. What you gonna do about us, And they're like, oh geez, we could be shooting ourselves in the foot with all this censorship stuff. So they had to choose their paymasters and the other corporations, the big six corporations that control everything, all the media, or they risk losing all their business, or what? Which is it going to be? It gave them put them between a rock and a hard place.
It did most certainly.
Are we going to fuck the people and alienate all of our customers, or are we going to toe the party line? Which is it?
Well, exactly too. I mean, you even look at, Elon Musk, before he took over Twitter, he was praised by, we'll call that side, the left side. He was praised. Oh, he's saving the environment. Yeah, a little bit, kind of, yeah. But for the most part, things like that. And then as soon as he took over Twitter and he started bringing free speech to the table. Now, even now, there's, I open up my Facebook page, you have people doing nasty reviews on Teslas and things like that.
I think it's all Amber Turd.
Amber Turd, yes. Amber Turd, it is. Same thing. It's like they have to create an enemy. They have to.
Well, say whatever you want about me, just say it in print. All right. I think that's where all these guys have in common, like Andrew Tate, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. The list goes on. Matt Gaetz. It's like, please talk shit. Talk all the shit you want. Just make sure you talk it loud and talk it often. Blow me up. That's what they're all saying. It seems like to me.
Exactly. Well, because it's all backfiring. It's all backfiring, and
I'm not too worried about our friend Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be okay.
I think he's going to be okay. No, same thing, dude. It's all backfiring, and that's what it is. Even with the COOF and everything else that went on, it all backfired. So, I actually am going to love to continue to watch the backfiring.
Yeah, let's get back to watching the the lovely backfiring.
The backfiring
Progress
that's going on. I mean, you know, it's definitely interesting and entertaining to see the backfiring go on. And you know, Invisible College, if you're listening, you're doing a great job.
Sure are.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Jumping the shark a little bit, I could offer some criticism, but all in all, you're doing a great job of upholding the plausible deniability. As long as you do that, you make people like me look like an idiot.
Make us look like crazy tinfoil fucking wearing hat guys, yeah. But you know what? At the same time,
bravo.
You know, either you're intentionally backfiring yourselves or you're just getting sloppy. Who knows?
Yeah, I look forward to that big reunion when all the masks really come off. You know?
Oh yeah, and that's going to be a very interesting day. You know, what we're talking about is this. So we've talked about the witness protection program before on this podcast, and we believe that some of the people who are quote unquote dead are not actually dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about in Revelation in the Bible, I'm bringing
the dead shall rise.
The dead shall rise.
Mm.
So it very well could be some kind of event like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm picturing like a Woodstock with Bob Marley and Tupac, Whitney Houston and Prince and Michael Jackson. You got Princess Diana in the front row sitting next to JFK Jr. I mean, dude, that would be pretty sweet, wouldn't it?
That would be something else, man. I think everybody's jaws would be hanging agape because then they would see, like I said, there's been a lot of things that have been upholded and torn up. You know, we saw the loss in faith in a lot of the global establishments. I mean, one thing that was publicized, it was announced for one day on the mainstream media, but as it progressed, they stopped talking about it. You know, the people of China were uprising against their government, losing, you know, lost faith and trust there. I mean, we were shown our idols are false on multiple different fronts.
Well, okay, so also another image that I'm getting from my guides about that Woodstock-like concert where all these people come back from the dead and they're all jamming on stage. Okay, Jerry Garcia and all these people. The Christians are going to be outside pretending like they're not interested. And they're going to be like, did Jesus come to the concert? Is Jesus in there? Huh? And then they're going to be like, one by one, they're going to be like looking around. And then they're slyly going to like sneak in while all the other Christians aren't watching.
Dude, well, you know, that's one thing I would like to do is I definitely would like to do a podcast kind of comparing, I guess you could say, what our concept of Jesus Christ would be. As opposed to.
Dude, I'll spill right now. Okay, so Jesus is in that second grade class. People think Jesus is like the teacher out in the hallway that's going to come in and instill order. No, Jesus is the nerdy kid in the second grade class.
Oh yeah.
That's there as he's in the midst of you. Okay, in the midst of us.
Yes.
People are looking up. When's Jesus going to come out in the clouds, a conquering hero? Come on, Jesus, come on back and save us. And he's like looking at you. He's like tapping you on the shoulder. It's like, I'm all around you, you know?
Exactly, and that's the one thing too, man. If you guys wake up one day and see a giant holographic Jesus in the sky, that is not the real Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus is like, he's going to be like your car mechanic or your chiropractor or your little league soccer coach. You know, he's going to be the person you least expect. Probably have a foul mouth. Probably,
exactly.
He's been married 2 or 3 times, or could be a woman. You know?
You never know, and I think that's really where what I think Joe is hitting at is that Jesus is within all of us, and it is a state of being that we are supposed to achieve. It is and I think what really got lost in translation is worship Christ is really meant to be like Christ. And in a sense, if you are being like Christ, you are also in turn, I guess you could say you're worshiping him. If you're doing it like that.
I mean, so if every one of us has the potential to act as a smith or act as the devil,
we also have the potential to act as Christ.
Don't we know?
Yes, we do. Cool. And that is pretty cool, and that's why I put it on my little board. That's why I actually made a symbol for Christ on there, because I think that that is what's really hitting the point, and I think that is what's missed or what got lost in the doctrine through the Council of Nicaea, and even further diluted after King James got his hand on it. And just in case you guys are reading the King James Version, there's a verse I want you to look at. It's Romans 13, 1 and 2, where it states, "Follow the laws and rules of your government, because they are my will." King James put that little tidbit in there. Okay, that was not in the pre-Nicene Bible. That was not even in it after the Council of Nicaea. So this is what I mean. That sounds
very sus, you know.
That does sound very sus, because if you look at that statement alone in Romans, and you look at who Jesus truly was, Jesus was not a rule follower.
But also, like, it doesn't necessarily, I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit, it doesn't necessarily stray too far from render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Which actually is a verse I kind of agree with, which is saying, you know, like, if they want to print out their own fucking money, then it's theirs. That doesn't stop you from providing a service or a good to your neighbor.
And,
we don't need their coinage, we don't need their fiat currency. There's nothing stopping us from getting the resources we need totally free from the whole currency system.
And so you know, even really, what was really cool about talking with Ben is this kind of ties into that question we asked him. We asked him, you know, like, what, you know, even though it's a long shot for certain things, what can observers do to, like, help, you know, plot, prep, plan, organize, and have some kind of communication? And really, in the event that he was talking about, we're not going to really have any long distance means of communications, but what you can do is work with your communities. And what Joe really means being free from the currency system is this. Like, let's say I'm a craftsman, I'm an electrician, I'm also kind of a jack of all trades. I can go and fix your house, I can do these things in turn for you, and in turn you can give me some of those eggs from your chickens that you're raising. Yeah. And then, you know, same thing too, like, let's say I got a vegetable garden, a nice big one, and
we're so conditioned to, like, hand somebody a bill for services rendered. But when you help your buddy move, you know, it's kind of with the hope that maybe if they're around, they'll help you move one day.
Exactly.
And that is how the economy could work. It could just be that simple. It's like Kevin Spacey was in this movie, Pay It Forward, back in the 90s. And this little kid had an idea for his class project where, you know, if everybody started just doing favors for free for strangers, then it would have this spiraling effect, this outwardly spiraling effect that eventually would envelop the whole world. And then that movie just kind of went, everybody went and saw it, and then they totally forgot about it.
Exactly. And that, you know, that's not even in terms of just prepping and survival. This could just be the way we could be. I mean, everybody has their talent, everybody has their niche, everybody has their thing that they can contribute and they can bring to it. I mean, dude, even if you sell.
Dude, like, I would do a podcast if I knew I could get paid for it eventually. It's like wrong motivation.
Wrong motivation, dude.
I would do an art project right now, but I don't think I could sell it for very much, so I guess I won't do it. And then, you know, it's like, no artist is ever motivated by money. They all know that it's a long shot to ever get paid for your work. It really is.
It really is. I mean, we do this because we want to do this, guys. We do this because we want to deliver the information to you all. We want to let you know that, guys, in the future, we are going to be the ones to do this. Mm-hmm. We are going to be the journalists. We are going to be the scientists, or I mean, look at just even what Ben did. I mean, he turned himself. I mean, yes, he was a researcher beforehand, but he took the knowledge that he gained from that, and he did something for himself. And a lot of people, I mean, dude, I would call Ben a scientist at this point. I most certainly would. And we are going to have to play these parts, and that, I think, is what we're kind of getting at when it comes to this whole situation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think we're getting close to wrap up here. I think we've
got
dispensed a lot of advice during this podcast.
We don't
really like to it. It's like,
yeah.
Let's see, burn your money. I guess that's if you have an emotional attachment to money.
But you have to burn 6 grand.
Keep burning it until the attachment goes away. And that's it.
We're going to play this joke now.
It could be $1, like burn $1, burn 5. Write down in the comments how many bills it took and what combination to buy your soul back, basically. from the false god.
I'm very interested to see what we get on that. But guys, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next weekend. We're going to be on Original Day on Saturday. We, the Ben podcast was a big thing for us, so we decided to do this today. But thanks for listening, you guys. Subscribe if you like us, of course, and we do listen to your critiques, y'all. It does not offend us.
Yeah, we need the feedback.
We need the feedback.
Because we're so new at this, and we'd like to hear the part where you said that whatever it is,
And for sexy truck driver,
keep it sexy.
Keep it sexy. All right, y'all. Take care, man, and until next time.